Friday Night Stars, presented by Whataburger, is brought to you by Geico, 85 years of savings and service. Texas Lottery, play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. And by Whataburger. Stop on by Whataburger and try the patty melt today. It's an all-time favorite for a reason.
Here it is. It's the final week of the high school football regular season, and here we are. It's Friday Night Stars on a Thursday night here at the Star in Frisco inside the Globe Life Studios. Bill Jones along with Kyle Youmans, and we are not only getting you set for the final week of the regular season over the course of the next half hour, we're getting you ready for the playoffs because there's a whole lot of playoff implications this week.
No doubt. I mean, there are a lot of playoff games this week to keep seasons alive for next week's actual playoff games. There are so many different scenarios around not only the DFW area, but the state of Texas that's going to converge on AT&T Stadium. It's a lot of fun this time of year, but it's also a lot of pressure for a lot of these programs.
Yes, it's a lot of pressure on us to get you up to speed on all the important games, but this was easy to figure out the most important game of this week. It's the Whataburger Game of the Week. It's from District 5, 5A Division 1. It is the defending state champion Denton Ryan Raiders taking on the Lone Star Rangers right here at the Star in Frisco on Friday night. And what a matchup this is.
You're exactly right. It was easy to pick this as the Whataburger Game of the Week because it might be the best game in the regular season across 5A in the entire state of Texas. Can Lone Star and the Rangers get over the hump? Last year, Denton Ryan took down Lone Star 35-21 and held the Rangers to 150 total yards. This is a very different Lone Star team. By different, I mean they're next level. You've got guys like Ashton Genty reeling in a pass there from Garrett Rangel, who's an Oklahoma State commit. Genty himself committed to Boise State. This is a high-flying offense that's out for blood. The winner takes District 5, 5A, and well, this is a Lone Star team outside of maybe an injury to Garrett Rangel. Should have been undefeated coming into this game. They had a great chance to take down Aledo earlier in the season. As for Denton Ryan, though, this is a team that relies on their defense quite a bit as opposed to what they've done in the past. The defense has always been good for the Raiders, but they haven't been this good for Denton Ryan in quite some time. And Coach Hannigan and company holding opponents to 10 points per game and under 215 yards per game. A massive front seven, five-star linebacker Anthony Hill Jr. There are a lot of pieces on that Ryan defense that's going to try and slow down the Rangers.
Anthony Hill Jr., the #1 ranked junior linebacker in the country, being recruited by everybody, 6'2", 225 pounds. And Ashton Genty, who you mentioned him off the top from Lone Star, I guess best running back out of Frisco since Jay Ajayi came out of Frisco Liberty. I mean, this guy is special, not only rushing the football, but receiving it as well. The Boise State commit has a grand total of 198 touches for 2,109 yards and 39 touchdowns this season. Looking for more against Denton Ryan. All right, game number 2 of our games to watch. How about District 4, 5A Division 2? It's the Grapevine Mustangs taking on the Chaparrals of Fort Worth O.D. Wyatt High School.
Yeah, I like this matchup a lot. I mean, these are two teams that struggled earlier in the year and then found their groove. Grapevine lost their first 2 games, but have rolled the rest of the year. They're 6-3 after a loss to Wimberley last week. That was kind of an odd situation. They had a forfeit prior to the game, and so that was a last-second meeting. But they have dominated Frisco ISD to this point, but Wyatt is a test as well. These Mustangs are going to have to get after Wyatt, and they're going to do so with Caleb Tejada. 80 carries, over 730 yards, 10 touchdowns this year. They really rely on the ground game. As for Wyatt, they also lost their first 2 games, but they've won 7 straight, and they know how to score. 70-plus points last week. They've also scored 79, 70, 41, 49 on different occasions this year. Their biggest question is, can they handle the balanced attack from Grapevine?
All right, Mike Alexander's Grapevine Mustangs looking to punch their ticket to the playoffs once again this year. They went 10-4 last year and won this district, and they are the favorites, you would say, against Wyatt in this one, but it should be a good one. The district championship championship on the line. All right, let's move on now to District 6-5A Division I, and that would be the Lancaster Tigers, 8-1 on the season, taking on the Longhorns of W.T. White High School from the Dallas ISD.
Yeah, the high-flying Weibo attack we've become accustomed to out at Lancaster. They have not been held under 40 points since week 2 of the season. Last week against Sunset, Lancaster and the Tigers put up 63 points in a shutout win over Sunset. Glenn Rice is the one that really keeps that whole offense together, but it's the weaponry that really makes the difference. Isaiah Broadway, Fajon Wilson, Dwight Jones, they have so many ways they can beat you on the offensive side of the football. And W.T. White, who was a playoff team from a year ago, they've locked up a playoff spot this year, but could move into the 3 seed in District 6-5A with a win over Lancaster. I really like what Davion Bishop does as a running back. Over 1,000 yards, 19 touchdowns on the ground this season. Can they control the clock and keep that Lancaster team off of the field, or that offense off the field? That's going to be the way the Longhorns keep this close.
You saw the big wide receiver for Lancaster there, Fajon Wilson, who is a 6'4", 210-pounder. I went back and looked at his game-by-game stats. The last 5 times he's touched the football, he has scored. And on the season, and not just, and these aren't little fade passes at 5-yard fade passes. These are like 50-yard passes, okay, and it's catch and run. Fajon Wilson has 28 catches for 622 yards this season. That's 22 yards a catch and 14 touchdowns. So 28 catches, 14 touchdowns. Half the times half the time he catches a ball, he winds up in the end zone. All right, how about District 6-6A, the Coppell Cowboys and the Jaguars from Flower Mound High School. And this is a playoff game, or a play-in game. Winner of this game goes to the playoffs. The loser goes to basketball season. You're exactly right. And both of these teams have great basketball programs, but they're not thinking about that right now, Bill Jones. They're trying to win some football games in a de facto playoff game as well. We'll start with Flower Mound, 4-5, but a big win over Marcus earlier this season kept their drive alive, or their season alive, as I should say. Nick Evers, the Florida commit, 3 touchdowns last week in a win over Plano, had 304 yards, 3 touchdowns against this Coppell team in a loss last year. But Coppell, they've looked to have the playoffs wrapped up since really the middle of the campaign, but they've lost 3 of their last 4 games. It's put them in this situation, but they have a chance to clean it up tonight. It's really Jack Fishpaw tossed 279 yards and 2 touchdowns last week. Can he keep that going this week? Yep, and Nick Evers, the quarterback for Flower Mound. And it's amazing the ramifications in the playoffs by virtue of who wins this game. That affects the top of the district as well. The ones that have already clinched their playoff spots, that would be Louisville, as well as Marcus and Hebron, because the winners, or the playoff teams from this district, they go play against in the first round in by district against the Allen Geyers of the high school football world. And so it'll be very interesting to see who plays whom next week. We're just getting started on this edition of Friday Night Stars. Another showdown at the Star when we come back.
This segment was brought to you by Whataburger. Order online using the app or at Whataburger.com for curbside pickup from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or delivery. This segment is brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big.
Time to take a look at tonight's showdown at the Star, as Friday Night Stars continues on a Thursday night from here at Ford Center at the Star in Frisco. You got Frisco High School taking on Memorial, 2 Frisco ISD schools kicking off your high school football weekend. Kyle Youmans. Yeah, and for Memorial, I mean, what a promising start it was to the season. 4-1 with wins over Justin Northwest, Melissa, but now they've lost 4 straight, and they face a Frisco team that has a defense that they've relied on for quite some time underneath Coach Harbert and company. But this year, it's really the offensive line that has taken center stage.
We lost 2 starters, but we returned guys that played, so essentially we returned all 5 starters. We returned tight ends with experience, running back with experience, our offensive unit has a lot of experience to it.
For a program like the Frisco Raccoons, who have prided themselves on defense in recent years, pride is on the offensive line. Blockers up front have paved the way for the top 5A rushing attack in the Metroplex, averaging over 300 yards per game. And it all starts with senior guard Cole Hudson.
He's a great kid. He's one of our team captains, was a team captain last year as a junior, and that was the first time we'd ever had a junior be a team captain. We give out stickers for pancakes and all that stuff and rushing yards, and every week it's like we're giving a whole sheet to Cole, not just one or two. So he's definitely a dominant player at the high school level, and he'll be a really good player at the college level as well.
With one game to go in the regular season, the Frisco offensive front, along with the Texas commit, are keeping their focus on a playoff push.
No, I'm still here, and I'm still working. Everyone on our team should work. We're all on the same team. We all have the Frisco name across our chest, and we're just here to represent our high school and our families and everything like that. So I think everyone takes it as the same as I do. It doesn't matter. We're only as strong as the weakest link on the team. Drive, just win everything. Our goal is to win. It's not really that we love to win, it's just we hate to lose. And so I really like our team, and I really like the goals we have as a team, and I really kind of value those.
This week is so big for Frisco as a whole because a win either ensures a number 1 or number 2 seed outside of District 7 5A, and that includes teams like Liberty and Lovejoy, who we'll mention a little bit later on in the show. But they also had to survive last week against a Prosper Rock Hill squad that pushed them into overtime, and that was also a Prosper Rock Hill squad that was pushed by Memorial. So it is possible the Warriors make this a game, but Frisco just has so much up front and so much defensively, they're hard to stop.
So as we look forward towards the postseason, what do you think the chances are for Frisco to make a deep run in the playoffs?
Well, I think it depends on how they line up in terms of the first round, second round, third round matchups. And you're going to see that based off of what Lovejoy and Liberty have. I think if Lovejoy comes out on top, Frisco would be the number 2 seed in that district. And if that's the case, I think they have a chance to make a deep playoff run because they win it on the ground. They control the time of possession. They win the physicality battle. And I think overall they're in a good position to go deep if they're able to do those two things.
All right, we're trying to show you as many notable games this weekend that have playoff implications. Some others from around the area in Class 6A, South Grand Prairie taking on Arlington Lamar in District 8 6A. In 9 6A, it's Saxe against Naaman Forest. And in District 11 6A, it's DeSoto playing at Waxahachie this week. And more Friday Night Stars in just a moment.
This segment was brought to you by Texas Lottery. Play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. This segment is brought to you by Whataburger. Stop on by Whataburger and try the patty melt today. It's an all-time favorite for a reason.
There are a number of powerhouse programs around North Texas, and one of the best going right now is in Lucas. It's just right by Allen. It's Lovejoy High School. They're unbeaten on the season, and they've got a matchup as they are hosting Frisco Liberty in District 7 5A Division II. One of the best matchups of this weekend.
Yeah, no doubt. It's televised nationally on ESPN2 and their high school football showcase as well. So lots of eyes on this one between the Redhawks and the Leopards, and Liberty could cause some chaos with a 3-way tie with a win in District 7 5A. This is a high-flying offense. Keldrick Luster leading the top offense in 5A across the state. 2,600 yards in the air, 25 passing touchdowns, 1,100 yards on the ground, 16 touchdowns on the ground for Keldrick Luster, one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks in the area. Oh, and he's just a junior. 700-plus total yards of offense last week over Denton over Denison last week. This is a Liberty team that can get off the ground. As for Lovejoy, the biggest question for them is, can they slow down Liberty, because they're going to be able to keep pace with their offense. They had an opportunity to rest some guys last week against Frisco Lebanon Trail. So many ways that they can beat you. Alexander Franklin has over 40 passing touchdowns this year. Jackson Lavender, Kyle Parker, Parker Livingstone, all of which play huge roles in that Lovejoy offense, and they're going to put up points as well.
Well, and on defense, their sophomore linebacker, the transfer from Allen Peyton Pierce, 6'2", 225 pounds. There's a lot of people that will have their eyes on him. The nationally televised game, just one of several top defensive guys on the Lovejoy defense. All right, some other notable games around the area, as in District 3, 6A, Haltom and North Crowley trying to fight for a playoff positioning there. And Eaton, Timber Creek, Kimball, and Mesquite Poteet. What catches your eye in this trio of games?
Well, of course, that final game between Kimball and Mesquite Poteet are certainly intriguing. Those are two very defensive-minded ball clubs, but they like to run the football a little bit as well. But I want to point out Northwest Eaton, because if they can take care of Keller Timber Creek, that is an under-the-radar program. I think heading into playoffs, we've seen the ways that they've challenged other teams like Southlake in the past, and sure, they weren't necessarily up to full strength in a couple of those big-time bouts, but I think if they're healthy going into playoffs, they can make a deeper run than a lot of people outside of the Metroplex actually think.
Yeah, and Eaton made a deep run last year. Timber Creek, did you see what they did against Southlake Carroll last week? The score at halftime was like 6-0. And then
That's impressive.
And then it was a 29-point third quarter for Carroll. But that shows you a lot that Timber Creek might be able to pull off the upset against Eaton. All right, when we come back, the power programs. Who does Kyle have this week as his power programs? It is power program time here on Friday Night Stars. Each week we pick 3 power programs, both Kyle Youmans and I do. And it's not necessarily, it can be the best teams in the area, but it's just teams that are making some noise we want to give a shout out to. So who are you giving a shout out to this week?
Well, you know me, and I love offense. How about teams up over the 60-point club last week? I love high-flying offenses, and these 3 teams do the best of that throughout the 2021 campaign. We'll start with the Highland Park Scots, 60-28 over West Mesquite. That was a West Mesquite team that's having a really good season. They're going to go to the playoffs, but guess what? 60 points up on the board from the Scots. The Duncanville Panthers, we've seen their name all over these power programs in the past. They're 8-1. Their one loss was to Mater Dei in the opening week of the regular season, but they put 63 on the Mansfield Tigers, 63-17 last week. And then how about the Martin Warriors out of Arlington over Grand Prairie? That was a battle that we were excited about last week, a notable game. Well, they put up 66 points, 66-20 over the Gophers of Grand Prairie. So I love offense, so I'm giving them my power program.
Forget half 100. You want half 120 is what you're looking for. All right, here are my power programs, and take you back to last week, some of the big upsets of the week. How about the Prosper Eagles? Upset Allen, broke the Eagles' 72-game district win streak. It's their 7th straight trip to the playoffs. Flower Mound Marcus wins the Battle of the Axe over previously unbeaten Louisville. And my alma mater, the MacArthur Cardinals, a first-year head coach, Beck Nicholas, whose son Bryler was the star. As MacArthur beat Berkner last week, they play Richardson Pierce at Joy and Ralph Ellis Stadium on Friday night for a chance to make the playoffs. The MacArthur Cardinals haven't made the playoffs the last 5 years, but the coach's son, Bryler Nicholas, he plays wide receiver. He kicked the game-winning field goal last week in a 41-38 win over Berkner. He's the punter. He's a defensive back. He's a kick returner too. And oh, by the way, he doesn't just play football. He also plays soccer. He plays golf in the spring, and he's a pole vaulter on the track team. I think that was a pretty good transfer and a pretty good hire, getting the head coach from Hebron. And thanks to that, Bryler Nicholas has the MacArthur Cardinals in position to make the playoffs.
He took a page out of the Bill Jones notebook and just ripped it out himself and said, you know what, I'm going to do a little bit of everything, because that's what Bill Jones does from Irving MacArthur. But I do want to mention Prosper. There were some people around that program that were, or at least worried for a split second there, that they would even make playoffs. How do you silence that? You go and you beat Allen. How about that win for the Eagles? That was huge.
And who knows, maybe they'll make a deep run just like they did last year in the playoffs. All right, when we come back here on Friday Night Stars, it's the Landry Award watch list, headed to the final games of the regular season.
Friday Night Stars, presented by Whataburger, was brought to you by Geico, 85 years of savings and service. Texas Lottery, play the Dallas Cowboys scratch ticket today. It's your ticket for a chance to win big. And by Whataburger. Order online using the app or at Whataburger.com for curbside pickup from 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. or delivery.
We're getting down to the nitty-gritty of the Landry Award as we get to the final games of this regular season. This is the final week of the regular season, and this is your Landry Award watch list, taking a look at the area rushing leaders, starting in Class 6A with Ollie Gordon from Euless Trinity. You got Jalen Burton, Coco Brown, Jared White, Andrew Paul. What a list, Kyle Youmans.
Yeah, and I'm lucky enough to have seen 4 of these 5 guys play in person. I'll start with Ollie Gordon. The way that he leads that Trojans offense is so forceful on the ground. He's a powerful runner, and he can throw it a little bit as well. But then for Coco Brown, I've seen some special performances from him down on that list. He put up 200 in the game that I had. How about Jared White? I saw him go for 417 and 6 touchdowns against Frisco Heritage. And then Andrew Paul last week against Fort Worth Nolan. That was a number 1 versus number 2 matchup in TAPS. Put up 396 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns, and he tacked on a receiving touchdown as well. 5 very, very deserving runners to be on this.
And I'll throw in a 6th. We started the show talking about Lone Star's Ashton Jeanty, who is committed to Boise State. He has over 2,100 yards total offense, rushing and receiving, 1,411 rushing and nearly 700 receiving for Lone Star. So check him out against that vaunted Denton Ryan defense right here at the Star on Friday night. And that does it for Friday Night Stars for this week. For Kyle Youmans, I'm Bill Jones. Enjoy your final Friday night of high school football regular season action. See you next week.